Turner.
So the Mayor of London will face the High Court today over his plans to expand the ultra-low emission zone, known as ULEZ.
Also known as a rip-off. A group of 5 Conservative councils are challenging the expansion amid concerns the scheme would harm local businesses during the ongoing cost of living crisis.
That's right. So joining us now is Gareth Bacon, Conservative MP for Orpington and a member of the London Assembly from 2008 until he stood down in 2021. Good morning, Gareth. What's your position on the ULEZ? Is it good for the air but terrible for the consumer and the driver?
Good morning. Well, the expanded ULEZ will be terrible for a huge number of people and won't make any difference to the air at all, which is one of the reasons why I've been fighting it every step of the way. We know this because the Mayor, as part of his consultation, had to get an independent company to produce a report assessing the impact that it would have, and it came back and said that across the board it would have a minor to negligible impact on air quality in outer London. So it's not really about air quality, it's about money grabbing.
And money grabbing in some order, Gareth, because in 18 months they've raked in £400 million in fines from motorists who've not paid on time or strayed into the low emission zone without realising, and that's before it's expanded to every single borough in London.
Yes. That's completely correct. So that's the ultra-low emission zone as it currently is constituted, which goes out to the North and South Circular. But what the Mayor is proposing to do is to take it right out to the Greater London boundary. Now, that will hit not just people that live in Greater London, it will also hit people that have to come into Greater London from outside. So, for example, if you live in Dartford but you work in Sidcup, you'll drive across the Dartford Bridge potentially on a daily basis, and you'll get hit by that every time. And London's border is not always apparent either, so people could stray into it by accident, not realise that they've gone into the ultra-low emission zone, and the first they'll find out about it is when they get a £180 fine come through the letterbox. And so it's...
No, so I was going to say, and the thing is, Gareth, the trouble is that a lot of people won't be able to afford to replace their car to conform to the emission standards that ULEZ demands.
That's exactly right. I mean, I've had letters from thousands of people now over the last sort of 6 months or so. Some of them are coming from elderly people who are telling me that they are now going to be effectively housebound because their car was the only way they could get out and meet people. Now, my constituency is very rural. It's right on the edge of London. You can go to parts of it, and I've done videos, and people can look at them on my social media feed, of where I'm in, for example, Cudham Village, which is literally a Kent country village with hedgerows, farmers' fields, village pubs, village cricket, etc. And these are areas that are going to get hit by this. And you think, well, this is preposterous. I mean, there are fields with herds of deer in them where I'm describing. What there isn't is a lot of public transport alternatives. So people need to be able to drive around in their cars. So I've got single traders telling me they'll have to stop working either in Greater London or give up altogether. Social care workers who need their cars, they tend to be lower paid people. They can't get around to see their clients anymore. My local higher education college has told me that lots of their staff are not going to be able to cope with this. It really is going to have a shattering impact. And as I said right at the beginning, it's not actually going to improve the air, so there is no need for it at all.
Gareth, what might the implications be of the result of this judicial review this morning? Just explain to our viewers and our listeners what the implications of that could be.
It depends what the court finds. So it's a judicial review. So it's not about whether the policy is a good policy or not. It's about whether the Mayor followed the right processes in arriving at his decision. And there are multiple grounds that the 5 councils put in against that. And the court is going to hear 3 of them. One is that he failed to follow statutory processes. Another is that he did an unlawful consultation, and finally that he inadequately consulted on the scrappage scheme, which he has offered, which I have to say is a derisory scrappage scheme anyway, but it wasn't, the impact on people outside London I don't think was properly considered, and I think that's the ground that the court is going to hear. So the court has a range of sanctions available to it. They could order him to reconsult, they could order him to stop it altogether, they could order him to delay, or they could find in his favour, in which case the path will be clear for him to proceed on the 29th of August.
And just to remind people, Gareth, you already have to pay the congestion charge if you go into central London. You're now going to have to pay the ultra-low emission zone, £12.50 on top. So that's going to be nearly £30 to drive into London.
That's true, but only if you have a non-compliant vehicle.
Yeah.
So the age range is for a petrol car, I think, is if anything older than 2006 as a registration, that's likely to be non-compliant. And with a diesel, I think it's anything older than 2015 would be non-compliant. There are some exceptions to that, but not very many. So yes, it's going to make driving prohibitively expensive for quite a large number of people.
It's also not entirely environmentally friendly either to be scrapping cars, which are perfectly good. I live in a ULEZ zone in West London. Good friend of mine, she's got a slightly old diesel car, but she wasn't happy. She wasn't ready to sell it. She was quite happy to use it for a few more years and get a few more miles on the clock. But now she can't even leave the house to go to our weekly netball match because it costs her 13 quid. I mean,
exactly, and that's exactly. I mean, I've got so many examples like this of where people are going to be really badly hit by this. And of course, the other thing as well is that while the limits are what I've just described to you in terms of the age of the vehicles, there's nothing to stop the mayor, once the ULEZ is installed, from deciding to raise that.